Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Queens Talk. Here on the Queens Talk, we talk to women, and normally women, about how we overcame past trauma, how to change our mindset, and where we are now, and how we now like to help others. But tonight, we have a special guest. He's not a woman per se, he's a male. And he's going to talk about how he had to change his mindset to become better and to lose weight. If you have any questions, feel free to comment in the chat, and when we get a chance, we will try to answer it as soon as possible. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and check out my products, Embraced by Leslie Ann. Last year in 2023, I've added more products to my line. I've added a men's line to it, a beard balm, beard butter, men's butter, a lot of different things. So go check out my website and check me out on Instagram at browngirlsandbreads_LLC. And let me bring my guest on into the room. Hey, Matthew.
Hello, Leslie. Well, I guess I introduced myself. My name is Matthew Griffin, and I'm from DC, Washington DC, the DMV area.
Yes, nice to have you. How was your day?
It was pretty good. A good day. I used up a lot of good energy, made a lot of good decisions, planned some things out. Um, it was good. I got a lot of good things done. How about yourself?
My day wasn't bad. I started this year off right. Today's my first day in the gym. Get that motivation like from you, trying to go strong at the beginning of the year. So, well, hopefully for the rest of the year, I can be consistent in the gym and boot camp and things like that. But yeah, so let's jump into this conversation. So you recently lost over 100 pounds in 4 months, and we want to know how you did it because I know you got a lot of questions about how much was it exactly that you lost.
Uh, it was exactly 180 between January the 15th of this year until about maybe like October 28th or something like that.
Okay.
So from that time period, less than 12 months, I lost a total of 180 pounds.
Wow. That's amazing. So this conversation, I know you might have seen the thumbnail, is about changing your mindset. So we're gonna talk a little bit about changing your mindset and how things was for Matthew from childhood to now, and how it was a struggle with changing mindset because the mind is the first thing to make your body move. So I have a few questions. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to comment in the chat, and we will get to you as soon as possible. But the first question I want to ask you was, how was childhood dealing with your weight? Because has weight been always been a problem for you, or no? Or tell us about childhood dealing with weight.
As far as I can remember, especially when I look back at pictures, the last time that I remember looking like a normal little kid was probably when I was about 6 or maybe 7. Because by the time I was 10 years old, I was already overweight. I already had issues with my right leg and walking, and that eventually led to having a series of surgeries to kind of correct that little growth error because of my weight. But to be honest, ever since I know at least 13 years old, I was either almost 300 pounds or already over 300 pounds. And it's been that way up until recently, like literally this year, that I've
Mm,
just always been 300 pounds or over.
okay. So, what was the first step you had to do to changing your mindset? I know that wasn't one question we discussed, but what was the first step to changing your mindset?
The first thing that I had to do was I had to be honest with myself. And I learned that you cannot lie to your body. If you lie to your body will have its own unique way of showing you the error of your ways. So I had to be honest with myself and ask myself, what do I want? And I immediately said, I don't want to die.
Mm,
I still appreciate life. You know, life had gotten just that bad where it was like I don't see anything good right now. And if I look at anything and how it could get worse, I just see it being un 6 feet underground, as they say. And and I just was able to reflect on the things that I've learned as I was growing up, the things I already knew, what I should have been doing, what I should not do. And I made a decision and I says, I have to do something because if I don't, all I see is, lights out. So I first had to be honest with myself and I had to tell the truth that I wanted to live and I needed my situation to improve if I wanted to continue living. So that was the first thing that I had to do. I had to be honest with myself and know what I wanted.
Wow. That's kind of triggering when you say, "Well, I wanted to live." Like a lot of people don't realize that people can lose their life from being overweight, from just having too much stuff around your heart and not being able to move as much. So, um, I like how you said you was like just simple, like I wanted to keep living. Do you mind asking how old are you?
I am, and it's funny because I don't celebrate birthdays. I always end up forgetting how old I am, but I can remember. I turned 36 last year in
Mhm.
2023, so I guess I'm supposed to be 37 this year.
Yeah. You got a long life to live. Keep living. Like we're still in our 30s. Got to keep moving. I know for me, like I said, I just started going back to the gym today,
Mhm.
and I have type 1 diabetes. And if I don't work out and if I don't take my medicine, I will lose my life. So just keeping those things in the forefront of your mind is that the will to keep living and to be motivated to do more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next question I have is, what are some common mindset blocks that people face when they try and lose weight, and how do they overcome it? Like, I know you've been part of this group, and you've heard a lot of different things about the struggles people had to lose weight. So, what kind of mindset? Well, can you first tell us about this group you were in?
Yeah, so that group is called the nickname is AHA, and it stands for a healthy alternative. Um, I like it because it's like its own mini private version of Facebook. So because I'm not really big on social media, so it's like just enough social media for me to be on. But it's a community that's based around fasting and holistic, wellness, for you as a person. And most of the information is free. It's an open community. Um, it's backed by several health and wellness coaches. They each have their own unique little niche or special area that they specialize in. So of course you can do consultations or whatever other services that they offer, but the community is really beneficial. It's really helpful. And whether you're a person that can be motivated by seeing other people do things, or whether you have a place where you can kind of, express yourself among other people, among like-minded people, it really helps. And it helped me to realize having a support group is really important. Even if you don't actively use it as much as you see other people do or use it, just the fact that you have access to a support
Mm,
is a really big thing because sometimes we have access to things and we don't realize what we have, right next to us, and we try looking, all over the place. So I was very appreciative that I found a very similar community because as you can relate, with your particular health condition, when you fall into the minority of a particular group of people or a particular category, it's so easy for you to just get swept to the side or just looked at differently, or there's stuff you just have to worry about. Oh, that's Celeste.
mm.
Hi, Celeste. I got to meet her earlier this year. But yeah, so mm, that happened. I forgot what I was talking about.
Oh no, I said when you got in the support group, and you saw that the mindset was different. Like I know so let's go back to the question. The question was, what are
Sorry.
some common mindset blocks that people have when they try to lose weight? And I know you might have heard stories shared. So can you share any common mindset blocks that might have
Yeah.
happened to share
So
with with yourself?
common mindset blocks. One that I think of is shame and guilt.
Mm,
So, and I've gone through that several times before. You get on the train, the ball is rolling, you do the fast or you do the protocol, and you see, weight come off, you make the changes and eat a certain way, and then you get to the finish line, and all of a sudden, when it's the next day, and they're like, hey, there you go, life on your own. Here's life after the competition, and you're left out there by yourself. And if you're new to this, you're like, what am I supposed to do? Like, am I supposed to eat this or should I eat that? And if
mm,
you don't have that as a habit, then you fall back on what your body remembers. And if your body remembers all, the negative food that you're trying to get away from, that's what you're going to gravitate towards back to. That's all you know. So, but usually when that happens, the average person, because they were at this high, and all of a sudden we crashed, and we crashed
mm,
hard, and
mm,
we're our worst critics, so
mm,
we crash even harder. Now we have shame and guilt because it's like, man, I can't let nobody see me right now. I don't have no right to be commenting on no post or anything. I'm not no good example to anybody. So so you have individuals with that particular mind blocks that they have shame, they have guilt. It's hard for them to move forward and move beyond, that point where they are. But in the long run, it just means that there are other people who don't get to experience what you're able to share, because many people many people benefit and learn just by reading other people's experiences, watching,
Mhm.
hearing it, um, and it really makes sense to kind of, I don't mean to get spiritual here, but when you read things in the Bible, you read things that are both good and bad, things that shine a good light and a bad light. And what
Mhm.
I mean is you have people that are recorded doing embarrassing things that they wouldn't want no one else to read about them, in the future, where we are now. But it's written that way so that we can get the whole picture, so that we can get everything. It's not just learn what to do what's right and then you experience the bad stuff on your own, or oops, you make a mistake on your own. You don't have to make mistakes if you are guided in the right way. So it's kind of like that, with this particular, mind block with the shame and the guilt. So that's one particular one. You have another one where this one is a real hard one that I think when a lot of people think about, they can actually either relate to it or they can agree to it. Is that they feel like it is so hard for them to stop doing something that
Mhm.
they know they should stop. Like if they just stop eating a particular food or stop drinking a certain
Mhm.
thing or stop eating late at night, or something that they know is beneficial if they stop, and they feel like no matter how hard they try they just can't stop. That
Mhm.
particular mindset, usually when I have a chance to hear that particular person's situation, I am usually able to help them to see that the efforts that you're putting forth, and this is no shade to you in particular as a person, but the efforts you're putting forth, they're only half or one third of the solution to the problem. And that's not saying that you're doing anything wrong. From what you understand, you could be doing everything absolutely right, but you have a couple of other things, or one or two things you may have to also take in consideration. And one of those things is the after effects or the aftermath of having consumed processed foods and refined sugars, all those chemicals and all those preservatives and all those additives that are in there. I mean, believe it or not, I mean, those things are, created to preserve, to prevent things from naturally happening. And when we put that in our body can't process correctly unnatural things. So it messes things up. So you have those things inside of you, but then also that means you may have some bad guys inside of you. And sometimes they can produce things that make you feel a certain way. Like I feel like I got a craving for sugar. Like I gotta have
Mhm.
me some bread or gotta have me some toast, gotta have a sandwich or something. There are other things that can affect your thinking, that can affect your actions. So it's not just you, struggling like I feel like I just can't stop. I just like I gotta have it. That just means that you have a couple of things inside of your system that needs to be detoxed, that needs to be eliminated out. That way your body can finish healing and repairing itself. It's not, a pretty thing to deal with that, because when we're stopping something that the body has gotten for a good minute, it builds up its tolerance for it. And when it wants it, it sends off these wild, crazy signals. So it can be difficult trying to deal with that, those withdrawal symptoms when you're trying to take the bad things out. But once you get over that hump, especially if you utilize some fasting tools for your situation, once you get over that hump, you're able to really start seeing the benefits, and you can start feeling a lot better. And a lot of people will feel energy that they didn't realize that they could experience before. They was like, wow, there's more to this. Especially if as we get older and we age and we kind of go in a decline, you get
Mhm.
some of that back. It's like, wow, I feel young. And some of that stuff really is, reversing, some parts of age and whatnot. But yeah, but that particular mindset block, as far as you feel like you just can't stop no matter what you're trying. I mean, the one of the things I've learned in life is the solution to things and how to explain things for us in a simple way is really simple. So if you're struggling and you just can't stop, and you understand that there could be other things in your body that's also tugging on to push you to make those bad decisions, then the simple answer is you need to detox. And they say, well, what does that look like? How do I detox? You could water fast. You could take a detox supplement, a herbal tea supplement. That way you can have a cleansing out session from that. There are several ways you can detox, but it's nice to know that you have options, natural options, to help to resolve issues that you may have been dealing with for a long time, especially if you've gone down, the route of today's modern medicine, and you had some not so great experiences, whether financially or physically or mentally, or
Mm.
everything, you know. But those couple of mental blocks, the shame and the guilt, and the one we just finished discussing as far as like they feel like they cancer, those are the couple of mind blocks that people can tend to fall into. Again, I'm going to tell you the easy answer to that is, change your mind, change your thinking. But the way we live life, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
So no, I wanted to ask. And again, we have about 16 people in there. So all you guys that just joined the room, feel free to comment in the chat if you have a question for you or Matthew about how he lost weight. And it's a comment right here. I'm gonna let you read that, Matthew.
That's my girl T.
Somebody had a hard time getting. Okay. Anyway, so the question I had is for you is, how did you change your mindset? Like to say, no, I'm going to do this. Because I'm sure that's what everybody wants to know is, how did you change your mindset and say, no, I got to get this weight off of me. And this is what I'm going to do to change my mind to get me to do this.
So I like giving this answer because it really helps people to see life really can be enjoyed. You really can actually have control over what you really want to do. So for me, I like to listen to. Well, let me back up. Good advice is, if you want to do something, you have a goal, surround yourself around people who are like that, who are already doing that. It's okay to surround yourself with people doing the same thing, especially if you're working together. But for people who are already there, for people who are already in that particular, category or position, surround yourself around them. It's just like when you talk about your friends, you hang around with the bad friends, you're gonna do something bad. You hang around the good friends, you're gonna go good. So you can use that same method of thinking in this particular case. So for me, here's what I heard from the other people that I was surrounding myself with. Change your thinking, and changing your thinking starts with your thoughts. Supposedly, the average person thinks 80% negative thoughts.
Mm,
80% of the average person's thoughts are negative.
mm,
If you can imagine, then you can imagine if you have negative thoughts, a lot of things surrounding your life are also negative, or it can be negative. That's a very large scale to say, change your thinking as far as for that negative thinking. How in the world are you going to go from all these years of just thinking a certain way 80% of the time to just flip that? That's not easy to do. But when it comes to the body, and when it comes to understanding what you can do with your body, you realize there are certain measurements that you can take. There are certain steps you can go through to achieve certain levels, certain smaller goals that you have, but they line up and they make up this big, huge picture that you get when you zoom out. So we're going to zoom in and we're going to put it way down to ourselves. I remember hearing someone say, you complain about your weight, you complain about how you look in the mirror, you complain about how this doesn't fit, how this aches, how this hurts, but your body, day in and day out, every second of your life that you've been alive, your body works tirelessly to make sure that you can breathe, to make sure
mm.
that you stay alive, to make sure that you can do whatever you need to do to exist and to survive, because it understands that without you, it doesn't have itself and it needs both. With that being said, just like we're living beings, everything inside of our body is alive.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that it has intelligence. I'm not saying that it's sentient. I don't know. All I know is thoughts affect things in your body.
Mhm.
Let's give a good example of that. Someone knocks on your door and they give you bad news. They give you news that someone very dear and close to you has just died.
Mhm.
We've seen examples, whether it's in movies, whether it's in articles, whether it's in people telling experiences like I'm doing now, but in some way, shape, or form or another, we have some mental image of somebody passing out, from getting that terrible news. No one touched them. No one shot them. No one gave them anything physical. But all of a sudden, they get a pale face. Their temperature drops. They have coldness in the tips of their fingers. And they feel this deep pit in their gut. And
Mm,
it gets so intense and painful that they pass out.
mm,
That's just from hearing the words that was delivered to them. But how our mind processes words, which a lot of people don't think means anything, like it's just the air coming out that goes through some
Mhm.
vibrations. No, it's not. It's not that way.
Mhm.
We don't have to know it 100% completely, but we know it's not that way. It's very different. But with that particular part being said, because I'm about to forget what I'm about to say. But hold on. I think I got it. I think I got it. Last time I said that, I didn't got it. Ooh, Leslie, help me out. I'm bummed.
Okay, so you were talking about how you had to change the mindset, and when you somebody get a knock at your door, everything is about and how the mind changes if you heard some devastating news from your loved one. It's
Got
exactly.
So imagine you get that, and your body processes that, and your body switches on all these different reactions inside of your body that triggers all these different symptoms that you have. And just imagine, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but just imagine you never resolve those emotions. All
Mm,
the energy that your body used
wow.
to actually transform whatever was
Mhm.
going on in your mind into chemical reactions that can then be altered into other things. You, you're talking about something really, really powerful here, but that's a different rabbit hole that we're going to go down a different time. But let me come back to the current time. Um, when it comes to changing your mind,
How did you change your mind? That was a question.
I changed my mind
Wait. Mhm.
by switching things from a negative view to a positive view.
Mhm.
And I use myself as the basis for that to start. I can't change anything else unless I change myself first.
Mhm.
We heard it many times before. You would how does the phrase go? You have to what is this? Preach what was it? Preach what you teach, or I, you got to walk the walk if you're gonna talk the talk, or practice.
Practice what you preach.
Okay, practice what you preach, and you can't preach if you're not practicing it yourself. I
Mhm.
mean, it's just not gonna work out. Eventually, something not it's not gonna add up. So when we think about ourselves, it's a very common thing for us to look in the mirror or look at ourselves, wherever it's on our phone. But we look at ourselves and it's almost like we have an automatic checklist of all the things we don't like. I was like, up, I don't like them hips. Up, I don't like them sides. I don't like the complexion of my skin. I don't like them blotches over there. Oh, I'm so sick of seeing how that shakes and how that jiggles. Oh, when am I going to get this fat off of me? That's the negativity that we're talking about that affects your body. Okay, how can you expect? I mean, we've already seen it proven and documented that farmers can give emotion and affection through their words and their actions to their plants. You hear about all these different things about how you have folks that grow plants and they sing to their plants. They do all these quote unquote intimate things in caring for the plants. And when they compare it to just plants that are just grown, just water, fertilizer, whatever they get, and water 'em every now and then, the yield is different. The food tastes different. So we have examples like that to let us know there are so many things that actually exist and can be created or transformed if we just maybe change our perspective and look at it from a different angle, from a different way. So for me, I realized that I can't feed negative thoughts in my body. Whatever
Mhm.
you say, whether you say it out loud or whether you say it in your mind, you're saying it with you in your body. And
Mhm.
if you're being honest, it's a difference. But if you're lying, it's going to backfire.
Mhm.
But all that being said, I can expect my body to continuously give me good things if I, even at a smaller level, feed it bad things. There has to be a balance somewhere.
Mhm.
So what I did was I changed from a negative to a positive viewpoint in very small ways. Now, I did it though over the time period that takes some time, but
Mhm.
from my experience and what I understand, especially when I see other individuals and what I test out now, if you come up with a very specific timeline and a protocol for how to do this, it won't you can do this really quickly. And I mean, you can do this like within a month or two. I mean, it definitely where it starts, growing as a habit where it's like almost second nature for you. So for me, when I looked in the mirror, I understood that I could not right away, I could not say anything positive about me because I still had negative thoughts.
Mm. Wow.
So I decided to be honest about my body. I mean, why not? I'm being honest. Let me be honest about what it is that I don't like. And once I list, because we can list, it can be numerous, it can be 2 days long, but we can list constantly every single little thing that we don't like about our body. What we say,
Mhm.
the things that we nitpick about. Oh, I shouldn't be doing that. Oh, I can't stand how that look. It goes on forever. But once you get to the end of your list and you don't have anything else, well, that's not true. You do have something else. The only thing that can be left is what's good that's been waiting to be used.
Wow.
So, I mean, because there's only but so much of everything. Once you use it up, either it's gone or you have to wait for it to come back. So here's what I did. When I looked in the mirror, if I was not comfortable enough with saying something kind to my body,
Wow.
instead of me even saying it in my mind, I would just look at that particular part of the body, and I don't know if anything happened, but I just stayed quiet for a few seconds because it was a way of making myself kind of tune into the body and realize not only does the body not feel good itself, you're not making it feel good by the things
Mm.
you're thinking and saying about it. And if there's no one else that's going to be around when you are alone, it's just you and your body, regardless of how you look at it. So I started small in that way first. I gave myself, as they say, I gave myself grace to allow myself that period of time. When you think about perfection, a lot of people think that there is no learning involved. Perfection doesn't mean that you know everything like that. Perfection is something that you get to attain, but you get to do it in
Mhm.
such a way where you're not really having to experience, all of the negatives and the bad side effects, just from different perspectives, different angles. But once I got over that little hump of getting it out of my system, as I would say, for what I honestly did not like, then I was able to kind of feel the emptiness of I got all my negativity out. I talked about my body. I don't want to keep talking about it because it makes me feel bad, but I went through everything and there's nothing left. So I know what I should be doing. So let me look. And so it looked goofy, but I honestly did. I looked up and down at my body over the mirror and I decided on something that I would like to look a certain way or I would like to work on to improve. And I just started there. And that would be in the bathroom, looking in the mirror, first thing in the morning before I go out to the world. So I start with myself first. And then from there, I made a conscious and intentional effort. These things that I've done, these things that I'm describing, they were intentional. They were not haphazard. They were not, oh, they fell out of nowhere. Oh, I stumbled upon this. No, I set out to be on a journey. I was very intentional about what I wanted. And I made sure that I would not repeat and go back to what I was trying to.
Mm.
It was, I was not going to do that again. I was not. So I never even allowed myself to even entertain that thought about going back. I was like, that's not a thought. That it's already done. I have other things to think about instead of that. It's already etched out. We when it comes, we'll just go right on over it. Like, yeah, well, that's what we expected. But so I started that way, and I was intentional about being positive. It's so easy.
Mm.
When you take a moment to be aware of the things that you say, aware of what things pop up and make you just, react and say some things, after you've calmed down and those emotions have dissipated, you have a moment to reflect and go back and say, how did I handle that situation?
Mhm.
Was it good? Was it bad? What could I have done better? Those are many moments to reflect. And when you're able to reflect and do that, you can actually make a better decision the next time that comes around. Or when it does come around, you can reflect real quick and think, I did X, Y, and Z last time. And I remember what the outcome was. And I don't want that one. So let's do ABC instead. And let's just see what that looks, because that looks better than what we had last time. Um, so that led to me constantly being aware of my thinking, constantly capturing every little thought that I could that went through my mind that was negative. Even if it was talking about somebody like, that person got a big old butt, they shouldn't be walking like that. Thoughts like that, though it sounds funny, it's still negative. It's
It
still bad and talking bad about somebody, let alone behind the back in your mind. But so even thoughts like that, I was like, I think I can say that a different way, or I think I can, do something, differently. So, but that was like a snowball. You've seen on a cartoon where they take a snowball and they push it down a mountain and it just starts rolling,
bigger and bigger.
getting bigger and bigger. It was
Mhm.
like that once I started changing my thinking to be more positive. And so it made things so much more easier. It made things more enjoyable.
Mhm.
It helped you to see things from a different perspective. That's a very important thing that I don't think enough people do because many people think they shouldn't have to do this. But it really is beneficial, and it's all about perspective, put yourself in somebody else's shoes as best you can with what information you do know, and just try and imagine how you would feel the way they were being made feel. Like, how would you feel? And when I do that, when I have some instances when I reflect back on things, especially when I'm not in that frame of emotions or that
Mhm.
mindset, anymore, it's almost like cringeworthy. It's like, wow. I was like, "Ooh, I don't like that," or I could have done that differently, or I could have said something differently. Uh,
Yeah. I want to cut you off for a minute.
mhm,
I want to say that how you speak to yourself is so important, as you just mentioned. And doing affirmations, and I think you told me, if you look in the mirror and say, instead of saying everything that you hate about yourself, reverse it and say everything that you like about yourself. Like you said, words are powerful. Like I was in cosmetology school before, and my cosmetology teacher always used to say, change your language, change your life. So if I wanted to get the color formulation, I couldn't say I couldn't get the formulation. I had to change my language, and I changed my life that way. I was telling my mindset to do it. Even I'm not a great test taker. And I learned this method. If you write down, you mentioned it before, if you write down all the negative things that you feel about, like how, if I'm gonna feel this, how I feel, just put that all on paper. And that releases you and let it go. So I like how you said that you had to look yourself in the mirror and address everything, get it all out. Because, like you said, 80% of our brains is gonna be negative, just to get it all out. And you can imagine the weight that's lifted off your shoulders once you do release that negative energy that you're giving to yourself. Other
mhm.
people aren't giving it to you, you're giving it to yourself. And I also want to comment about the surround yourself with the community, because we all heard that saying, birds of a feather flock together. So if you're going to hang with people that's eating X, Y, and Z and doing all this, how is that going to help you to your goals and what you want to do? So that's anything in life. If you want to be a book reader, then hang around book readers. If you want to learn how to ride a bike, hang around bike riders. So putting yourself in that community is big too, and changing your mindset is good as well. So that's all I want to say before I cut you off. You can go ahead and continue.
No, no, you're fine, you're fine. But that positivity thing, it really had a big snowball effect, and it got to the point now where most of my thoughts are positive thoughts, and
Hmm.
most of my thoughts have a pre-thought now, and that pre-thought has already scanned the thought, and it's like, do we that feels a little negative before we actually really commit to that. There's got to be a different way we can phrase that, or we could just forget it altogether. So it most of my thoughts are positive, and if I feel they aren't, I make them positive. Um, it's it's so important for anyone hearing this and people in general to understand that many things that we should be able to do, many things that we used to be able to do, many things that we had access to, that we had the ability to do, a lot of it we don't really have anymore,
Hmm.
especially for the current generations that are growing up and coming up. Um, and what I mean by that is the food supply, the water supply, the medicine supply, the particular services available for certain mental wellnesses. Try not to say all these big box names and everything, but how each of those things was concepted, like when it comes to food, processed foods, when it comes to water, like tap water, everyone knows don't drink the city tap water because all the stuff that's floating inside of it. There were certain points in time where these things had a fundamental need because X, Y, and Z was going on, and we needed that type of solution at that time. But over time, things improve, technology improves, and things change. That's changed, but there's so many things that have not changed since then. As far as for recommendations for food, as far as for things that are publicized to be recommended a certain way when that's really not correct. And the bad thing about it is because it's controlled a certain way, then that means that there's no other way but people to come up with an alternative way to try and still do whatever they want to do. But I say all that to say before I forget, because I'm about to forget. Um, we have had things diminish, whether it's from the things we take, the things we eat, or the things we drink over time, as we're seeing now, especially like in the last 10 to 15 years. now we're getting to a point where all that stuff that was done, all the stuff that was tried out, that was kind of, guinea pig for a lot of people, that
Mm,
many people just kept taking, taking, and taking, and they weren't told there was ever going to be an end to it. Now we're seeing all of the bad things that are happening to them. But not only that, because it spans over, several generations, now we're seeing all these different family lines further down the road that have they have a much harder time with just trying
mhm,
to live life with what's being put in front of them. But like our thinking capacity, like when you clear the junk out from all the stuff that is not real that we put into our system, your body still will heal and get better gradually, but it'll heal and get better. So, like when people who are familiar with keto or intermittent fasting, and you hear them describe, their brain fog clears, how they have this
mm,
sharp mental focus, or when you hear when people are, water fasting, how they have this nice steady, it feels like a steady energy supply, especially once you've gotten over whatever little hump or detox, wave you might be going through. But when the brain is firing and using energy very efficiently, the way it really can, you feel amazing. But there are so many people who have no idea what that even feels like. There are so many people who get mixed versions of that because of how their diet is interfering with their body, or how whatever medicines or medications that they're taking, or operations they've had, is affecting their body. Um, for me, I realize the way I think now is so much more than what it was almost 12 months ago. I feel like
mhm.
I've done a whole lot in 12 months. I've done a lot. And there are certain things that I have taught myself to do or to not to do, because as I am making my new lifestyle a way of life for me, I gotta make sure that it's sustainable. I gotta make sure
Mm.
I can actually not, go back. And the first experience that I had with that was the yo-yo dieting. So here's what and this is, and I'm gonna ask, so I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but this what I'm about to say is gonna go into like how that 4 month period went when I lost that weight. Do you want me to tell that now? Or do you want me to wait?
No, I wanted to share how you lost the weight.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready to share, let's jump on in.
Okay, so I'm gonna share that one. So that group I talked about, that community, a healthy alternative.
Wait. Let's start. How did you find that group, first of all?
Okay, so it's funny how I found that group. So it was the beginning of the year. I had already decided that I want to use water fasting to try and lose weight, but I had a
And what does water fasting consist of? Just
so
straight water.
so water fasting, it pretty much consists of just water. If you want a basic water fast, like no frills, nothing specific, it's just water. So you're not eating anything. The only thing you are consuming is water.
Until for how long?
So it depends. So a lot of people will actually tell you it depends on what you're trying to do. So if you're following a specific protocol, you're going to already know how long the fast is going to be for. For example, the fast that I ended up doing had a nickname of R72, and that's a rolling 72-hour fast. So
Mhm.
72 hours is the same
Okay.
as 3 days. So you will water fast for 3 days. And then on the fourth day, you do what's called a refeed. You pretty much eat. You break your fast and you have a meal. But there are recommendations and certain guidance as far as for how you should eat, what type of things you should pick from. And then after you finish your meal and day four is over, you repeat that cycle. You do 3 days of water fasting, and then you have a refeed the next day.
Okay.
You repeat that one.
Okay. Just wanted to understand what water fasting was before we go into that. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Because I
Yes.
didn't know like water fast is like. Well, I know I'm a diabetic, so I probably wouldn't be a good candidate for the water fast because
Yeah,
the
it's not. In general, it's
Mhm.
for everybody, but if you get specific with it, there are certain groups. So if you have certain medical conditions, or say for instance, if you are pregnant or if you are even nursing, it's recommended that you would approach that either very mildly in the way with your medical practitioner or whoever you go to. That way you can have proper guidance for your specific condition. And or you may get information saying that it's not recommended, especially right now, not right now, we need time to do something like that, or just not do it at all. So
Mm,
in general for everybody, but it can be specific for certain things. But so I had a problem with water fasting longer than 48 hours. I had a mental block, and my mental
mm,
block at that time was I gotta eat. It seemed like as soon as I would get close to 48 hours, something would just overwhelm me, and I would say, I just need to eat. I know if I eat, everything would be just fine. I was like panicking for no reason. So this was a normal day when I found them. I was at work. I was on YouTube looking up something, and one of the videos popped up. I had never seen or paid attention to the videos before. But what caught my attention was it was a video, and on the actual thumbnail, it said, he lost about 200 pounds with no loose skin. The no loose skin is what caught my attention because people who are overweight and who either know that they have a lot of weight or they even know they already have loose skin, they know that if they were to, we already know, we were to lose all of the weight and become a normal sized person, we will have a lot of loose excess skin. And from what we are seeing for the most part in mainstream, media or whatnot, the only way you can get rid of that is if you have a surgery procedure. Not only is it's expensive, but I'm pretty sure that's painful. And you got
Hmm.
to do all that extra stuff and drugs
Yeah.
to your body. So when I heard, and to be honest, that was a personal reason why I had decided not to really care too much about losing weight because
Wow. See, just that. I don't want to have the excess skin from losing weight. I don't want to lose weight. Wow.
the people who were people who were obese my size, and I'll get to that in a moment with the details for the weight numbers and everything. But people who were my size and who even this size now, everyone. Let me calm down. I'm thinking too fast. Everyone like me who can sympathize with me in the physical way, we are in our own unique niche of this is our chronic extreme situation that we deal with. That becomes very similar. Oh, look at Foggy. That becomes very similar to
Hmm.
another situation, like say for instance, acid reflux. That's a chronic condition that's happening, especially if it gets worse to GERD. That definitely is a chronic situation. And rheumatoid arthritis, arthritis itself, these are individual groups where they have very specific things that happen to them, and they hurt in a very specific way that other people can't quite sympathize with. Obese and above people, or even overweight people, they deal with that as well. We deal with that as well. So and hold on, because I'm doing it again. Mm, How I lost the weight, right? Okay, so I watched the video. I found the AHA video about no loose skin. That's why I clicked on it. It was Stephen Michaels. He's one of the health and wellness coaches there. It was his own particular video with Chris interviewing him, and and it was the simple answer is he water fasted, but along the way he learned a lot. I will personally say, anyone who starts a journey of including water fasting in their wellness journey, especially if it is weight related, you
Hmm.
will quickly find out, if you do not already know or understand, that weight is not just weight. In the beginning, and I was the same way, everything that you hear me describing and talking about other individuals, for the most part, I've already experienced that. I've already been through it myself. So I include myself in that as well. Uh,
Hmm.
but, mm, okay, don't forget it. Don't forget. Mm, 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 mm. Right. So, I think I'm. Boy. Okay, let me backtrack. Let me backtrack. Me.
So you said you saw the video with Chris
Right,
and
right.
on
Thank you.
water fast too, but he did something else with the water fast.
Right. So with the water fast, you learn that weight is not just weight. You realize as you start losing weight and you start seeing changes in your body, feeling changes in your body, strengthening that connection that you have with your body, you start to realize that, especially if you are overweight or especially if you do have specific health issues, internal ones, you start to realize there's a lot of things inside of me that need to come out, and they come out in different ways. They come out whether it's with your digestive system, whether you're pooping,
Hmm.
peeing it out, whether you have things going on with your skin. So you may have foul body odor. You may deal with,
Hmm.
your arms are real funky smelling. The deodorant just ain't working as strong as it used to. Or you may experience what many people experience but don't realize, and that's an emotional detox. You have many people.
Emotional detox.
Yeah,
Woo.
yeah, we're not talking, and I'm not talking about anybody in particular, but we do not mean those who are going through menopause or who go through that change of life where the hormones, because of that situation, are all over the place.
Trauma.
We're talking about, like you mentioned, some of the things like that. We're talking about people that, to the best of their knowledge and understanding, they're going through a water fast, they're taking these things out of their diet, they're trying to make better choices, and all of a sudden, bam, out of nowhere, it's like, why am I crying? Why do I feel,
Hmm.
sad? What? all of a sudden, why do I feel so anxious? Why do I not want to be around anybody? You have all these different emotions that start coming up. And because the average person don't know what's going on, that's why you have everybody saying, I just don't know what's going on. Something's wrong with my hormones must be, all upside down or whatnot. But it just goes to show that there are different ways that the body needs to get things out of the system. I'll give you a good example real quick. Especially for men in our common society today, it's a common thing for men to not show emotions, to not cry, not to do anything that they would see women or females doing. It's a normal thing for females to be so emotional, to be, to want to be all touchy feely. How men describe women's emotions, but they don't want anything like that. But that's not really healthy, because if your body is trying to express itself in ways that would mimic or be something similar to that, if that's how it's naturally trying to do, especially if there's nothing wrong with it, you shouldn't suppress that. When you suppress things, it goes back to what we said earlier about when you receive bad news and how what you thought all of a sudden transforms into something into reality in your body. And if you don't resolve that, then all of a sudden you wonder, why do I have issues in my liver? Or why do I have issues down here in the gut? Why do I have issues with my back? Why do I have certain aches and certain things wrong with certain parts of my body, when to what I think I understand, I shouldn't have any issues. And a lot of times for people going through that, is they have an emotional block going on. They need to emotionally detox, but you can't always force that. A lot of times the body is going to work at its own pace. So you have to train your mind to slow down so that it can keep pace with the body, because we're always going to be light years ahead of our body. But
Hold on one second, Matthew. I want to address this comment. It says, I currently struggle with that mental block with my fasting as well, at my fasting journey as well. And I want to address when we're talking about the mental block. A lot of people are scared to go to therapy and talk it out and get those emotional things out so we can move past it, move past the trauma, the mental health. A lot of us deal with mental illness that we're unaware of or undiagnosed with. But once we go talk to somebody and talk things out, like I said earlier, there's a burden that's lifted off your back. If you start, if you are a prayer helps. Saying positive thoughts to yourself, a lot of that plays a big part of your mental. And if you're not talking it out or talking to somebody or having a support group, how are you releasing these endorphins and those negative energies and thoughts that you're having? So that's just what I'm saying. I'm sorry, Matthew. Go ahead and
no,
continue.
no, you're fine. I mean, it really is important. A lot of it is, honest reflection, because
Mm-hmm.
to be honest, and again, as you'll always hear me say, no shade to anyone in particular. It really is not. I'm just speaking off of what I see myself personally in the past. But many of us say, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. And we take two steps forwards and we look. And if we're putting our hand out that has money, if we're spending money on something, we want instant gratification. We want it right now. But on
Mm-hmm.
top of that, now we want free stuff. We don't want to pay for nothing, and we want it to be right now. And that mentality has gotten us into so much trouble, because we just skip right over us. There's no accountability. And
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, you have that on top of what I can only speak off of my personal experience. I don't know what it's like in other cultures as far as for, Caucasian or
Mm-hmm.
like that. I'm speaking about Black African American families, me growing up in the hood, in the DMV all my life. On top of what we just talked about, it is a common taboo thing. You don't talk about mental health. You don't talk about therapy. You keep that stuff to yourself. Don't tell nobody you doing stuff like that. They don't think you crazy. I think you crazy because you're talking to me about it now. Because I don't want to talk about it at all. No.
Exactly.
It becomes such a taboo issue that you just don't think about it anymore. It's like one of those automatic things, like how you can automatically just tie your shoes now. It becomes an automatic thing. Oh, we just avoid things about that, and it molds our thinking in a certain way, so that instead of us having an open conversation about whatever we want, now because we don't want the conversation to kind of spill over into this fun, free way of thinking, but they think you're crazy. Now all of a sudden we we choose to change how we think and how we speak, and that slowly over time really starts to mold who we are and the type of things that we think, the type of decisions that we make, the different things that we try to accomplish, if we try to accomplish anything at all. But it really helps us to see that accountability is very important. You have to be accountable for your own actions. And one of the things that I appreciate seeing people naturally progress. I say naturally because I get a chance to see other people's journey that they're on now, and they're naturally progressing through it. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to, have mess ups, but they're doing exactly what I personally told myself I would do at the very beginning. One of the things that I told myself when I started my journey was I promise that every experience that I go through, I have to learn from it. Because as many people have heard, failure is not a failure if you learn your lesson. If you learn a lesson and you correct it, or the next time you do it, you do the right thing, you didn't fail. You learned
Mm-hmm.
what you learned what you should have done, what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that you can now build on that and you can go further. So I told myself every time there's something negative, every time there's something that's like a no or like a too bad, or oops, you missed me,
Mm-hmm.
or no, not us. Okay, that's fine. That's just from this particular angle, from this particular perspective. What does it look like, from a different perspective? And when a person asks himself that question, the average person doesn't know. It's like, I don't know. All I know is this particular way. And that's part of the problem. We don't allow ourselves to free think. If you allow yourself to free think, you do exactly like
Yeah, because people will tell you, "Oh, why are you thinking that?" Or tell you that sure. And I want to say this: we're all individuals, and we all have our own thought process. So how I think and how you think might be totally different, and it's okay as long as it's like we're trying to strive to become better and recognize that, hey, maybe that wasn't right, but we are our. I think what I'm trying to say is that all of our opinions matter and our emotions matter. So don't allow somebody to brush off your emotions or your feelings because that can go into a depression as well if you feel like you're not being heard or seen. So all of this plays a part in weight losing and changing your mindset because a lot of it is because it's something mentally, it's a mental block that's not allowing you to release and let go. But I do want to address some of the comments before we move on.
yeah.
Deshaun says therapy is very important. Our next comment it says emotional detox. It has to come out. Yeah. Welcome to crying. It's worth it. Yes. Crying. Oh my. We all know how it feels after you finish crying.
It's
Like
it's a release.
yes.
Feel
Yeah.
better.
Yes. Yeah. But go ahead.
Oh, so I watched that video, and those things that you learn along the way while you're water fasting, while you're losing weight, you learn that you have different types of toxins, whether they're physical or whether they have become physical things because of what we haven't released. And so you quickly learn once you make that connection. I'm not just losing any type of weight. Almost every type of weight that I'm experiencing my body lose, I should be aware. I should know what it is, whether it's something from my digestive system, whether it's through my skin, whether it's from my smells, whether it's through my tongue, whether, my eyes feel a little weird. Then all of a sudden, after a few days, everything clears up and it's fine. Your body's working. Your body's healing, and it's going to do it. But you learn to be sensitive to weight because it can be numerous things, not just fat or just water. It can be other things as well. So I watched the video and I was like, I resonated with a lot of things that they were talking about, not just in water fasting in general, but just about the whole holistic wellness area when it comes to, your health, because it's not just your health or your diet or exercise. It's everything that adds up to that. It's for the whole thing. So I says, okay, I think I want to learn some more about this because they've caught my attention. And so that's when I had realized that they had their first challenge of this R72 challenge program that they had, and I had just missed it by a few days when they had started in January. So I said, that's okay. I'm pretty sure if they're like what I think they're like, they're going to have another one. They're going to do something else in the future. So I just need to just be patient and hang around. I'd already started working on trying to change my thinking a little bit. So I went into February, I joined that challenge, and that challenge was very, very helpful for me to really get good at fasting, and it helps you to repair your connection or restore your connection with food.
Because you had a support group.
I really did. I had a support group, and it's really, really beneficial. Before I got into that support group, the closest support group that I had was a little chat on my phone with two other people, and we were getting ready. Actually, we said that we were going to see if we can do a 5-day water fast together because I had never did that before, and we had planned this before I had found AHA. So by the time I found AHA and I was going to start the February challenge with them, we were already in the middle of doing our fasting challenge. And I kept thinking, I says, well, how am I going to do this? I mean, do I have to stop my 5-day fast with my friends early so that I can do, the prep week that they have for the program since they prepare us before we actually do it. I was like, it feels like a lot. And I took a pro move. I said I'll take a hit full, but I don't want to stop. So I kept on fasting, and so I went to 5 days, and then after 5 days, I think I think I went to about 9.5 days. It was just shy of 10 days, and it was weird because I felt so many different things. I had my detox symptoms, but I had so much energy. I had so much like mental clarity and focus. It was like my mind felt unlocked, like whatever I wanted to think, I could think about. But my thinking hadn't got that advanced the way it is now. I just did, had my regular thinking. And so, but I was like, okay, so I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna finish doing the program. So I did the program, and I know from January the 15th to April. Is that in January? It's January to February is one, March, April, May. So maybe May the 15th, I say. But maybe April to May the 15th. One of those. I have it written down somewhere. But I know right after we did the R72, they had about a break for about a month before they had the next challenge. And the next challenge was a 21-day water fasting challenge. And I was thinking to myself, I just gotten used to fasting for 72 hours because we did this cycle after cycle. 3 days water fast, then you refeed. Then you jump right back into 3 days water fast and you refeed. I kept telling myself, I am building my fasting muscle because I means I'm getting some experience in where it should be no sweat for me to fast for 3 days. Because once you get into it, Leslie, there's a process that your body goes through, and you can kind of time that process. You can get distracted enough where before you know it, the 3 days is almost here. And you're like, oh, it's almost I gotta eat them. And it got to the point as we got closer towards the end, a lot of us got to the point where we were like, man, I feel like my body was just starting to do something once I got to 3 days, and now I gotta stop so I can eat and refeed. But there's a unique reason why they have to refeed in there. It's a teaching lesson to help you, build that relationship with food so you can have a healthy
Mhm.
relationship with food. But it was I think it might have been in May because right after we did the 21-day challenge, I mean that was a very intense challenge. We're in the middle of one right now with that challenge group, and so we're like this is like I think Sunday is the last day of the challenge, and so I mean there are many people who have not been eating for almost 21 days. So I'm pretty sure they're looking forward to have some food in the next few days or so. But so during that process, once I finished that 21-day water fast, not only did I give myself a good pat on the back, I said, I went 21 days without eating anything. That sounds crazy, and I'm so happy it is over because I want to eat. But right after that, I was doing my numbers because I have a journal, and it's in my bag over there, but I have a journal, and I don't have to journal every day, but there are moments that I need to journal because I'll forget them. And I've gotten good now to the point where I can remember a lot of the stuff that I wanted to remember. But I have a journal, and so I have every day. I would take my weight. I didn't care if it went up or went down.
Okay, so this time of the water fast, you're losing weight.
Yeah, so I didn't really get too much details because I couldn't. But I looking at my book, I couldn't remember the exact number for that first month. That's why I was like, I know those 4 months it was 100 pounds. But I put it this.
So 4 months you did water fasting?
No, 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 no. Well, you can say it was a combination. So I'll give you a timeline. Uh, and so keep in mind, even though I started my weight loss journey in January, it wasn't until February that I got with AHA and did their challenge. But it doesn't mean I wasn't trying to do my own efforts before then. So I was slowly losing a little bit of weight as I was going through the month of January. When I got to do the R72 program from February to March, okay, cool, I got you, Duane. Um, once I got once I got to the R72 from February to March, in that month, I wouldn't be surprised if I lost probably at least 30 to 40 pounds, one of those. Because as I got closer towards the end of that 4 month period, the weight started to slow down just a little bit, which was normal. But so February, I wouldn't be surprised when I went through that R72 program, I probably lost about 30 to 40 something pounds. And then I had like the rest of March and into April of kind of like a break so I can kind of do my own thing before the next challenge, the 21-day challenge. So that was when I experienced, the pitfalls of yo-yo dieting or not having enough good consistent habits set up. So I fall back on what I remember, which was bad stuff. Not completely bad, but the few things that were bad were very bad. And so I felt the consequences of it. So my consequences were the good, teachable lessons for me. I don't want to go through that again. So we're not going to do that. But throughout January, throughout February, throughout March, throughout May, I'm sorry, throughout April into May, I was either doing a form of intermittent fasting, or I
Well,
was doing a water fast that might have been for 3 days or longer, or I might have just been experimenting with how I feel about maybe just having, intermittent fasting or just playing with my windows, with my eating windows on different days. So there was a form of water fasting being done throughout that whole 4 month period.
okay. So yeah, that's why I wanted to go into the when you broke that water fast. What kind of food did you eat?
So for the R72, like when you fast for 3 days, when you break your fast, you want to break your fast kind of like in reverse when you went through a prep week. And we can talk about a prep week in a little bit if you want. But as far as for a refeed, you're going to start with a very basic thing, which is something that has a lot of hydration and a little bit of, effort to digest. So that could be, some fresh pressed fruit juice. That could be some hydrating fruit like watermelon or some type of melon, or maybe some grapes, something that has something
Well,
that it has water, it has this good hydration inside of it, not something like nuts, not something like, I wouldn't say a peach, I wouldn't say an apple, because even though some of those things can be juicy, for the most part that's a lot of chewing, they are full of fiber. That's too much work for your body after you've gone a period of time without eating. Be kind, be gentle to your body, plan out your refeed. Don't just get through the fast and then the next day you say, okay, I can break my fast, and you go out and eat. That's the worst thing that you can do, because you're going to feel like crap immediately after you eat. And you may feel like crap while you're eating, because imagine your body has been up here with digesting food, and you've water fast and brought your digestion level all the way down here to a bare minimum. And now all of a sudden, you just throw all this food inside of it, and you need your body to jack it up that fast. Your body can't move that fast. It needs time to turn these things on, to produce things, to do that. So you put yourself in your own world of hurt if you don't do your refeed properly. And most people that do a wrong refeed, they usually gain back all the weight that they lost, especially while they were water fasting.
okay, so is the refeed? Is it really just juicing the next day?
It could be just, it just depends on, it
Is
really
there a list
you
of like?
fasting.
I'm sure that we can look up. Like, is there a list that we can look up? Like,
So the best advice I can give you is what I get from a healthy alternative. So their website is www.ahacommunities.com. It's free. You can sign up. Someone can invite you. If you have any issues, join it for free. But inside of there, they have a lot of information. And if you go to a healthy alternative.org, you can sign up for their newsletter, and they'll give you access to their 7-day prep guide that they have, that will give you a protocol that you can follow. It's a prep week that you do before you go onto a fast. If it's your first time doing a 24-hour fast, you should prep. But if you're doing anything that I consider longer than 48 hours, then yeah, you should do a prep, especially if you're not used to water fasting for that long. The prep is designed to help your body to get used to slowly digesting less and less food. So you gradually have your regular meals, and over the span of a week, you eventually progress to just having juice. You're just juicing the last 2 days of your prep week, so that your body has gotten used to
oh, okay.
not digesting so much solids and dense food, but it can just absorb the nutrients from that juice.
So let me break this down. So if you are new, like I've never done it before. If I'm new to the juicing fast, I mean the water fast,
Mhm.
I want it 2 days before. I want to juice 2 days before, right? To try
At,
to.
at the very least, if you can, I would probably say if 2 days is all you have to prep with, I will probably say your first day, if you do breakfast, lunch, and dinner, go ahead and see if you can maybe either, for you in particular, we will have to modify it because of your diet, because of your health conditions, and that's fine. But let's say that's out of the picture, and let's say you have a pretty much regular diet. You have your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner, and you may have a snack in between. If you only have 2 days to prep before you want to fast, what I would recommend, the first half of your first day, and let that, and I say anytime before 2 o'clock. If you want to do it around noon, you can. But if you have to have breakfast, you can have a little amount. But have your densest meal around then, because you need to have your body get used to compressing and decreasing how much is digesting. So have your meal during the day. If you need to eat later on, either juice or have something very light, like a salad, or have some fresh fruit. Oh, hey, Lady C, say AJ in the house. I'm so happy with you. Purpose the way for sure. Tell it, what's your favorite juice? I surprise a lot of people because I'm very simple with things now. Um, when you do get a chance to cleanse your taste buds and reset your taste palette, and by the way, there are so many things you get when you do water fast. Like, say, for instance, by the time you water fast for 48 hours, you get new dopamine receptors, and they also reset, and you also get a reset on your taste buds. So when you eat
Mm.
things, they taste so much more intense. You don't need as much salt. You don't need as much seasoning because you can really taste, the fruit or that meal itself. And it also means you can taste the fakeness of processed foods because it's going to taste like
Mm. Wow.
it's not
Okay.
going to taste good.
Okay.
So
So I say in the beginning we do that. Then you have the water in the 3 days. Then after that, what do you eat?
So after that, so what I would eat now, to be honest, if I couldn't wait until noontime to eat and I wanted to have something for breakfast, if I want to have a fresh juice, I'll have a fresh juice. But because it's only been 3 days, I can have solid food. So I'll have me some fruit. I may have me some oranges. I could make me a smoothie. If I make a smoothie, it will probably be something that has some nice hydrating fruit inside of it. I will probably make sure that I put some probiotics and some fermented foods inside of it, like maybe a nice good fermented yogurt. That way, I can also replenish everything in my body since we all went without eating. For lunch, I would probably have my lunch be the biggest meal for me. For me, I enjoy a nice big salad that has a lot of
Okay,
things.
so I'm about to ask about the vegetables. Can we eat if we're not can't do the fruit because of natural sugar? Could we do vegetables?
So here is the beauty of this when you do things a natural way. The only limit is what your body's current limits are. Meaning that if you know that you have a sensitivity to any type of sugar at the moment and you have to do that in very close moderation, that's your only limitation. If you want to have now, keep in mind we're talking about plant-based whole food. I've kind of jumped the gun here and I
Uh,
apologize. So let me back up a little bit so I can make this much easier to see. When you go through a prep week, there are specific things that you are trying to achieve. And one of the things is eliminating these four food categories that I'm about to mention. The first one is processed foods. So
okay.
while you're going through this prep week, cut the processed food out. When we say processed food, we mean if it did not come from the ground, if it's not natural, if it's not a whole fruit, a whole vegetable, a whole plant, if it's not a nut, a seed, if it's not natural, if it's not real food, just stop. And if it's a difficult thing to stop, convince yourself that it's just for the week. It's just for 7 days. Go easier and say, let me just do it for this one day. And then you
Mm-hmm.
worry about tomorrow when it gets here. But first, cut out the processed foods. Along with the processed foods are refined sugars. Cut out the refined sugars. The next thing, or the next two, are the most controversial ones, but they have the specific reasons which can be explained later on: dairy and meat. For the prep week, it can be a hump,
So no
but
coffee,
no, if you want your coffee, you can still have your coffee. I
but
mean,
no creamer because that's dairy.
what I mean, if you're fine with a non-dairy, or if you feel like here's what I'm going to say about the dairy and the meat. In general, especially if you're trying to make this a lifestyle change, the reason why we say no dairy is because it naturally produces more mucus in the body. And for many of us right now, the last thing that we need is more mucus. We have too much mucus production in our body and not enough in the right areas where we need it. So that's one reason why we say no dairy. If you want dairy and you're fine with how your body makes you feel with it, or you do whatever you want to do so that you can digest it fine, that's fine. That's a decision that you make. It's your choice. But when it comes to meat, the standard meat that comes from stores in general is not organic, is not the healthy kind, is not the one that's free from all of the different chemicals and things that the animals are treated with. So with the normal type of meat available to people already being toxic and pretty much poison for the insides of your body, it's recommended that if you want to continue to have meat, just source your meat well. If that means you have to pay a little extra coin, if that means you have to look a little bit harder to get a good meat source that
Or
you know is going to be organic, it's not going to have all those drugs and things pumped in them. If it says, grass fed and grass finished, great, perfect. Go ahead and get that if you feel like you have to have it. But we would prefer you have it at a more expensive rate when you know it's clean versus just having any regular cheap version that's still full of all types of bad things that you eventually want to try and clean out. So that's why we mentioned the dairy and the meat. But those four food categories you're going to be trying to cut out throughout the week.
So dairy, meat,
Dairy, meat, I'm going to say refined sugars
process. Okay.
and processed foods.
Okay, so those are 4 things we cut off. So the 3 days, okay, so 3 days of fasting of water, and then don't you can have everything else but those.
Yeah.
Dairy,
Yeah.
meat,
Now,
refined,
now
processed.
here's where people usually mess up when they do this. They're so excited to have a refeed day that they kind of overdo it. They overeat. Sometimes they eat the wrong things, and they'll know because either later on that day or the next day or several days later when we see them again, they'll let us know what's happened or that they'll freely express themselves with what happened in the lesson that they learned. But it's recommended you eat a certain way because people like when they see themselves lose weight. They like when they get on that scale and that number shows that they lost X amount of weight. By the way, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump and give you a free tip here. Leslie, quick quiz. What do you think is how can I word this? There's a way that our body loses weight. How do you think our body loses the most weight?
Mindset,
Not quite. Try one more.
what we eat,
Not quite. It's very surprising to a lot of people, and you can actually Google this.
using a bathroom.
That's usually the number one answer, and even I thought that, but surprisingly, by breathing,
What? We are breathing.
right? We breathe, but more importantly, we breathe like that at night when we're sleeping. So you can actually Google, and Google will have the article and have the information that tells you that we lose the most weight by breathing.
So deep breaths, like
Oh no, then not something that you have to consciously do. Your body already does it automatically.
so what do you
Um,
mean breathing? Like
so
that's
our friend Brad. So me and Brad, we were out with some friends eating, and we were talking about this, and it came up because of some weird, health quiz that Joseph was giving us, and I answered, I said, it's through breath. And so Brad says, through breath, like, well, how does that correlate to you breathing to you losing weight? And so I explained to him the very thing that all of us know about sugar. We all know that if we eat too much sugar, Leslie, tell me, what does the body do with extra sugar?
turns into carbs,
And those carbs eventually turn into what?
fat.
It turns into fat. We all know that. We all know that line very well. You have too much sugar, and the body can't do nothing with it. It's going to turn it into fat. That's how we get all that fat, eating all
So
that.
much. Okay, let me time off of this. So as a diabetic, we have to watch the amount of carbs that we eat because it'll turn into sugar, and to take a step further, it'll turn into fat. So if you do it now, it's all making sense. Now, if you do eat a lot of sugar, you're putting more fat on your body. Okay, got it.
And it's like one of those funny oxymorons
Uh-huh.
because you look on different food packages and candy packages, they'll
Mhm.
especially the ones that's full of sugar, they'll clear as they say 0 grams of fat. So it's like, well, ain't got no fat in this. I ain't gotta worry about fat. But the very thing that this says 0 grams of fat that they use
Got it.
sweet
Left the shoes.
it's gonna make us get put on our own fat. So
Mhm.
but yeah, so hang on. Do you remember where I left off at? Something about bread. I'm sorry, I remember.
You
It's
breathing.
about breathing. So that's that same example right there. The body is able to convert one particular substance, sugar, however that looks to the body. It takes this sugar and converts it into a completely different substance, into fat. It can take one thing, transform it into something else. We already know about this, but we don't realize this. We all know about how breathing and how the lungs work. We breathe in oxygen. As the oxygen flows through and it gets picked off by the red blood cells, the red blood cells themselves, they offset that used up oxygen, which is that what they call it, carbon dioxide, or what the word is,
Carbon
CO.
dioxide.
Yeah, that one. So and they give off the CO2, and then we breathe, we exhale that. We take in oxygen and then we breathe out CO2. But that whole process is the same thing, very similar to converting sugar into fat. The body is converting these different substances, which we call air and oxygen. It's using some parts of that, and the parts that are left over, the byproduct of it, as if you would say, that CO2, that's what's left, and it's been transformed into that, and then we exhale that because we can't use what it's been transformed into. So just like that, we're able to have the body take that fat, what parts of it can be eliminated physically, it can go ahead and go through that conversion process, convert from a substance into a gas. AKA, if you look at it from our perspective, take an ice cube and you heat it up, it turns into water. But if you heat it up even more, that transforms into a gas. So there's all these transformations going on.
Yeah.
Oh,
More
what was I
comment.
supposed to say? So at night, I tried it. At night, I tried it today. I weighed myself at 7 a.m. I weighed myself again after I woke up at 11 a.m. I weighed point 0.6 left. So she went back. She went back to sleep and woke up later and found out that she lost a little bit more weight.
Because she tried the breathing thing. I guess because she tried it.
Oh, that what she did.
I think that's what it was.
I tried that while I was today at work, and it says, "Is a high CO2 bad for body?" Mm, I don't know, Lady C. That kind of sounds like a specific question that you might need to have like an offline conversation with. If you know me on AHA, direct message me. Yeah,
Mm.
Tenny's the body
Yeah.
is amazing. Yeah.
So before I want to wrap up this conversation before we go any further, you lost weight. To more of the story is we talked about mindset, changing our mindset. We talked about changing what we put in our bodies from processed to meat to sugar, and just talking to a therapist. And I think that was a big one tonight is that we have to um, learn how to talk it out and change our mindset. Even if we talk to ourselves, like you said, you looked at yourself in the mirror, you saw what you didn't like, you got it all out. Now we can move forward to this new person. You said, I don't want to go back to it. So, and um, a lot of us might say we want to do something with it, but then we don't do it. So we
Mhm.
revert back to doing it. Like the New Year's, everybody has a New Year's resolution. Everybody, we're going to lose weight. We're going to go in the gym. February, are we going to do the same thing? So do we want to revert back and everything like that? But I like how you said that you did the water fast. You joined a community where you was able to find like-minded people, and I think community is so big. Many of you guys know that I have my own community, Brown Girls Embrace, where brown girls are just embracing themselves and being okay with themselves and on their self-love journey as well. I deal with a lot of anxiety, depression, diabetes. So surrounding myself with people like that, and I do feel more connected. There's so many people that I've met because I feel connected. I feel like I'm not alone and I'm not going through it by myself. And there's a support system there behind it. So, and the intermittent fasting, and you gave us great tips. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap it up? Feel free to comment and chat. And if you're watching the replay, Matthew, where can people find you? And what's for the future for you with this new weight loss and all the good stuff?
Well, people can find me on a healthy alternative or AHA communities, ahacommunities.com. You can type in my name, Matthew Griffin. You'll find me, or you can look through the post. You'll send me comments and or post or something. You can find me there. What does the future look like for me? Well, my thought process for 2024 is just about almost already over. I'm already getting ready to start planning for 2025 because you can't say you want to do something and just get started right then and there. You need to plan. And sometimes it takes some time to meet a particular deadline you set for yourself. So before 2024 got here, I had already visualized for myself who I want to be. You know,
Mm.
what do I think I want to look like? Because what we have in our mind may not always equate exactly to how it looks in real life. So I try not to be strict in that way. But I know that I have more weight to lose. I know that I have more individuals to, unofficially coach and help out and guide. Um, I know that I am making this a holistic transformation because when you start transforming one thing, you need to allow other things to transform. Otherwise, you're going
Mm.
to repeat it eventually. So that means my life at home, my life at work, what I look like when I'm hanging out with friends, the type of friends that I want to be around. So I've already thought about that. I already have my goals set out for what I want to accomplish this year. Hold on, what did Lena say? Matthew, any tips for fasting over a weekend? I'm socializing at my Sunday church potluck this weekend and will be fasting. How did you face that challenge? Um, if you want easy advice to make it easy, if you do not already have a type of appetite suppressant tea, see if you can get yourself some. If you don't have access to an appetite suppressant tea, um, I would probably say, keep yourself distracted. If
Mm,
if you feel like you cannot help being around a food and the smell is just too much, I'm going to give you an opportunity to really test yourself and to show some real growth. Smell the food. Smell it, take it in, visualize it. There's a part of your body that can get some nourishment without getting physical nourishment. It's like even when it comes to expressing ourselves, and I think Leslie, I think you might have mentioned this before in a different interview or a different podcast, but I believe I mentioned remember hearing you saying when you write something out, it's another it's another perspective of a way that you can vent, that you can, release what's pent up inside of you. And I actually tell this to some people, in other tech jobs. You feel like you're about to send an email to somebody, you feel like you're about to, tell somebody off. Go ahead and either open a blank email, a blank notepad, write to your heart's content everything you want to say and tell that person off. Tell them everything you would tell them to their face, and then sit back, let it sit there for a couple of minutes, and then see if you still want to send it. Usually,
exactly.
usually
I've done that so many times.
because you've gotten a chance to get it out your system. It just goes to show we're not stagnant, beings. We need things to move. We need energy to flow, and that means everything needs to work. So I would say, stay distracted. If you are willing to modify yourself, if it doesn't hurt your personal standards towards fasting, see if you can allow yourself to have some juice. What I personally would do if I knew I was really going to struggle and I didn't have that appetite tea, I would make myself a really good green juice. And I would have that maybe like an hour or two before the event. And I would keep it just in case I need some, but that green juice will keep you satiated. You won't be, hungry. You may want to chew, but you're not going to be like, I'm hungry, I need something, so you'll be fine. Uh, what tips do you have for someone to go to plant-based diet? Educate yourself. There's a lot of plant-based junk out there. Just because it says plant-based doesn't mean you should eat it. Be aware of the ingredient list. If you're gonna go whole food and keep the packaged stuff to a minimum, you'll be just fine. The only thing you gotta worry about is, are you gonna buy organic? How much does it cost? But if you are gonna opt for things that are packaged, things that are easier for you to do, please try and get a minimally processed item. Or please at least try to get items that minimize the preservatives and different chemicals that they use. That way you don't have that junk building up inside your body. But go start low and go slow. I mean, if you're not used to eating plant-based, please don't jump right in, feet first and just start switching completely to having all this fiber, all this plant, all this fruit. Your body's going to react differently. And so go easy. So maybe just take one meal and turn it into a plant-based. Start with a salad. If your taste buds like different, things like tomatoes, avocados, maybe some bell peppers and stuff like that, try that, experiment with it, have fun with the different plant-based stuff out there, but try not to get, sucked into the plant-based packaged foods because that's just as bad as, the regular processed food. It's still processed. So just stay away from the processed plant-based stuff.
Yeah. And this is the last question I'm gonna ask you, Matthew. Um, the old you, what would you now say to your old self about your weight loss journey?
Well, so here is the unfortunate thing. Unless I'm going to a previous past version of me that never experienced what we've experienced with, and that must be when I was like 6 years old. I couldn't tell him all the things I wanted to do because he wouldn't understand it and he wouldn't trust me.
Mm.
I'm not going to trust as much as I know now about stuff. I'm not going to trust somebody coming from the future unless you exactly tell me all that stuff. So I mean, yep, my mind thinks just like a kid because usually the naive thoughts we have are usually the ones that are the best ones and they're usually the
Mm.
right ones
What
because
would you tell somebody who had a similar thought as you back in then? Maybe
that's
that's a question for you.
so I will probably say, man, believe in yourself and don't
Oh,
be afraid to take a risk. We take so many risks on stuff that's not worth it, but we're talking about your health. We're talking about something that you've experienced at least once in your life where you like, I remember
mm,
when I felt that good. I want to feel good or feel better like that. You owe it to yourself. Here's something that I learned and I tell myself. If the risk is a proper health risk, meaning that if I take this risk and I get the results that I specifically am looking for, it's worth me to do it. Because for me to improve my health, I'm not going to do something I'm going to die on, but I need to be able to do something that can give me the results I'm looking for. So I have that extra motivation that it's worth my time and effort for what I'm doing. So trust in yourself, believe that you can do it. I believe in you. Anyone who says they want to do something that's going to benefit themselves, I tell you, I believe it because I know that you can do it. But do you yourself believe it? So you have to be honest with yourself and you have to realize that it's for the better and it will get better.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, I always say at the end of every video that I do is that you got this, brown girls. Even though when brown girls, as a brown girl, there's a lot of self-doubt, self-hate. But I always tell my brown girls, you got this, brown girls. When you feel like you don't, just get back up and try it again. You got this. Keep it moving. So this is going to wrap up everything. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Matthew as well. If you have his personal information, he also has a YouTube channel. Is it Matthew Griffin?
I think it used to be like DJ McGriff, but ain't nothing really on there at the moment.
Okay, well,
They,
people
they
know
just
you know how to reach out to you. So I bet on that. But yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Brown Girls Embrace, and also follow me on Instagram at Brown Girls Embrace _LLC. And check out my products. Matthew bought some of my products for his beard and his body butters for his face and his body and things like that. So go check out my website, check out my page, like, comment, subscribe. And thank you so much for joining tonight. And thank you for the participation. We really appreciate it. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Bye.